I wrote something called Principia Politica, and I did it Talmudic style, where you have the principle and then you have comments around it. I don't show the Talmud here in Hebrew because this is for Lebanon, and I don't want the people to be arrested. So the LAU people to be arrested. So this Talmudic style, which is effectively not necessarily Talmudic, it was used by scholastic scholars, where you have commentary around principles. So so it's been sitting online now for about 6 months, 9 months. Principia Politica, linked to this talk, and for a bizarre reason, this is my most influential work, because Donald Trump, for example, lifted a paragraph, from it in his budget, okay, on how to put skin in the game in universities. That's in Principia. The Russian government decided to start a university with an expiration date, because one of my principles is that no institution should ever be started with an expiration date. So this is my most, plus other stuff, plus the term pedophrasty that's in it. This is 30 pages late, not even 30 pages, now it's 20 pages. Pedophrasty is circulating as a description of using children to win an argument, pictures of children. So this is from Principia Politica. When you read history books, you don't get a representation of what people were interested in at the time or what happened at the time. It's exactly like reading a history of New York written by a nurse at New York Presbyterian, okay, in the emergency room. So they have the feeling that New York is nothing but car accidents and heart attacks and stuff like that. That would be the idea. So when you read history, journalists are not interested in conveying to you what happened at any point in time as a statistical description. They're interested in what can grab your attention, okay? And not, so you have a bad representation of the world, and even locals start having a distorted idea of how they're operating. So the general principle, the first general principle, is nobody should coerce you into a political and economic system against your will. So if you're communist, there's absolutely no reason why you should not live in a communist community, or within limits, okay? And if you want to live in a tax-free state, there's no reason why anybody should stop you, provided you can find enough people to agree with you on that, okay? Or convince the local people to change system. That's the general system. It has constraints. And also the second point, and so that's quite relevant, but top-down states, nobody should coerce you into cultural, religious, or historical identity against your will. Okay? So in other words, if you decide that the Lebanese are from Mars, and that's your cultural identity, I'm from Mars, and decide you self-identify as someone from Mars, it's your right. No state should ever, but you're going to have a hard time, of course, convincing others that you're from Mars, but it's your right, okay? You don't have to take anybody's cultural definition from the top. So the problem of Christianity, and here I have it in, of course, the original language, which is the Greek of the Levant. Luke was 631, which tells you, do to others, okay, what you'd like them to do to you. And that it messed up Christianity and has messed up the modern world with interventionism. That's the golden rule. People think it's an advancement. In fact, no, it brings busybodies, because I prefer the via negativa. Don't do to me what I don't like to do to you, rather than come in and try to run my life because that's the way you like it. For example, I have to force people, because I love squid ink, to force people to eat squid ink every Monday and Thursday, and of course on Sunday for lunch, because that's what I like. I'd like to do to others what I'd like them to do to me. Okay, that's not how things should operate, and the problem that we have had for a long time is that the execution of interventionista, people who think that they want to do what's best for you, right? Typically they love the state because the state knows better, and they're both state-loving, and they have these NGOs, how to improve Africa and stuff like that. So they think that they're representative because they've taken a class on justice, that they want to impose it on others, okay? So the other wrong the principle, of course, no rent seeking. Rent doesn't mean collecting rent, in Harlem for your, the thing where you have 1/3 of the building in Harlem and collecting rent on it. No, that's not rent seeking. Rent seeking is someone who uses a position of privilege, to get an income that does not contribute to economic activity. In other words, that it creates a zero-sum gain. So to me, when I see the reason I don't accept awards is partly by ego, because accepting an award means you're limiting yourself to that award, but I don't hide it. The other one is much more serious, is that awards are zero-sum gain. Anything zero-sum is unethical for me. Okay, by accepting an award, you've taken something from someone else. But by making $1 million doing something, okay, you've added to the system. So you have two kinds of people. You don't have the rich and non-rich. You have those who earn money, and the bad people are the predators, cronies, rent seekers. Okay, someone who wants a commission because he's in government knows someone. Patronage, someone who has a friend. That's a rent seeker. A former president who lobbies for, or sits down, that is rent seeking. Okay, I won't go into former U.S. presidents, but you know who I'm talking about. Okay, so rent seeking is the enemy, and someone shall not exploit you. And rent seeking, and we're going to see how it leads to localism, because it's very hard to have a large centralized state without rent seekers. Okay, they grow like mushrooms in a centralized state. Finally, iatrogenics primum non nocere, or nocere in Latin, means you should not, no policy should have side effects. Okay, you're responsible for side effects. First rule, this is a Hippocratic rule, first do no harm. So that's a strong principle, visibly, very strong principle, first do no harm, because it applied to everything. And in the inserto, you can see that it appeared in the Black Swan and stayed. Every other page there's a mention of something related to iatrogenics. The harm from a policy, like for example, Thomas Friedman think it was good to invade Iraq. There's been harm from the invasion of Iraq. He's not paying the price. And we have known about iatrogenics since. That's a picture in the Louvre. For some weird reason, Hammurabi's rule, okay, Hammurabi's law, his code, is in the Louvre. I can't figure out why. And when I went there, no Frenchman, I was in a building giving a lecture about Hammurabi's law, and to someone who's an empty suit, what I call empty suit, Bernanke. Bernanke was there. I was lecturing, and I said, this guy is an empty suit. He's not responsible for the harm he can do. Invoked Hammurabi's rule, which was in a building. And nobody had heard of Hammurabi in France. The French know stuff that you'd never know, right? But they didn't know about Hammurabi, and it was in a building. It was like 100 meters away. So I went to take a picture, and of course, Hammurabi's law, 3,800 years ago, says that if you build a building like this one, and the building falls and kills the owner of the house, the architect shall be put to death. It's not like they don't like architects, but you should not create risk and walk away from it. Plus other, things. And effectively, the eye for eye comes from Hammurabi's law. So you cannot have control. You cannot have a good control of the iatrogenics and their effect, and figure out who has. Because we judge people on intentions in the modern world, not on effectively on the results. So. People's good intentions, they want to do good, okay? So, and wreck a country, do a lot of damage, and continually do it, normally under Hammurabi's law, should be, maybe Thomas Friedman can't put to death a person who killed 200,000 people. They'll kill him, put him to death 200,000 times, according to Hammurabi's rule. So, this is, okay. And then the other thing is, in my last book, so the incerto is, Incerto is 5 books. The last one was Skin in the Game. And the last one was developed an obsessive disorder with universalism. Kantian universalism. In other words, that between you and the state, according to modernity, there's nothing. There are individuals, there are states. You don't have intermediate layers. You don't have intermediate things. Okay? So, and of course it's not consistent, and we're going to see how, but you want to eliminate basically everything between you and a state, between you and, they want to eliminate, for example, nationalism is a form of Kantian universalism. There's France, like Grande France, and then citizens, okay? And then with empty things like liberty, which they don't have, and other things like that. So, liberté. So that's Kantian universalism that came from the Enlightenment, and it's very dangerous because there are different layers, there are different relationships. All that is ironed out, and they don't understand. Okay, so, and another principle is Greek versus Roman. I created this artificial distinction just to piss off some people, but it's not really Greek versus Roman. It's a metaphor based on something I picked up in Polybius. But the main difference is between people who believe that things that work in theory are okay, and others who are Roman. The Romans did not like theories, and actually didn't like the Greek philosophers. So whether you like ideas or you like practice. So as Jorge Berra said, in theories there's no difference between theory and practice there is. So you never judge anything by the intentions. That's my main, the thing. I had to put it on paper. Now, so this is, and I'm putting the principles now, so I'm glad you're filming us